So now it's time for some breaking news. Get it! All right, everybody. It's time for some breaking news, of course. Well, I guess it's kind of breaking. Sabrina would be like, it's not breaking. It's breaking. Kind of, right, Sabrina? Kind of breaking. Ish. Anyways, we're going to start talking about Marvel. And we're going to talk about how Marvel and China have had an issue for a while here. So China, the Chinese theater or the cinema program, we're like, we're not allowing Marvel movies to actually be here and to be or actually be shown in theaters. So which is a big niche of the market that Marvel has not been able to make money off of because China shut them down. It's been a political thing, been a lot of issues. Well, now Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, they were able to actually play that in China. And now they're talking about Ant-Man's able to be actually played in China as well, which will help tremendously with its actual budget, making back its money and actually making a good amount of money for the project that it wouldn't make if it wasn't going to China. This is a little bit why this was going down from the get-go.
As we previously reported, now that the 20th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party, as well as 2021's 100th anniversary of the party, are out of the way, we hear there's less fear within the government agencies. This was a big issue. No one wanted to make decisions or be seen doing anything wrong at the time of a geopolitical uncertainty and uncertainty within China. The Marvel issue seemed to stem from cultural and political sensitivities. Since Far From Home, such Marvel movies to miss a slot in China have included Black Widow, Spider-Man No Way Home, The Eternals, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Thor, Love and Thunder. You're muted.
A lot of movies, I do that too often, I think. A lot of movies actually have not had the opportunity to go to the Chinese market, leading to, I mean, they blame it's COVID, they said for a while, but there's also this political thing. So Marvel has missed out on a lot of revenue that they should have made because it wasn't airing in China, which is a huge market. Movies like Avatar just came out. Of course, they were in China. Got to actually make that money and help increase its gross domestic, revenue, which is huge when you're trying to go for the biggest grossing high movie of all times, which is what Avatar is going for, and Marvel's always going for too. So Sabrina, you hear this, and what do you think? Do you think it's about time that Marvel's able to do this, or do you feel like, there'll be some backlash, or do you think it's we're just open the doors and let this happen again? You think it's gonna be good?
Well, interestingly enough, there's very different reasons why different films have not been aired in China. Like if I take it away from Marvel for 1 second, Top Gun Maverick would not have aired in China, but they blurred the patch on the flight suits that had the flag of Taiwan on it because that was a controversial thing, or else that would not have been able to air there. Okay, so now going back to Marvel, it's not that they banned Marvel itself; it was each movie individually had an issue. You know what I mean? Like the Black Widow was in that weird period that we just read with the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party and all that. But Spider-Man No Way Home, they were going to show that, but they wanted Marvel to remove the Statue of Liberty, which obviously that huge fight was on the Statue of Liberty. You can't do.
Can't do that.
They were like, no, sorry. The Eternals was not aired because the director is a Chinese woman, Chloe Zhao, I think her name is. She had said some negative remarks about the Chinese government, so they banned that. Shang-Chi they thought was racist because his father figure was too close to Fu Manchu. There's just a lot of different reasons. It wasn't like Marvel's banned, period. It just was, they're very, very specific as to what they let in their market. And like, for instance, Doctor Strange in 2016, when it was written, it's not like they had to change anything afterwards, but when it was written, the mystical temple, Kamartaj, is located in Kathmandu, Nepal, right? But on the comic books, it was actually in Tibet. And then the ancient one was played by a Tibetan man in the comic, but they changed it and said to a white woman, Tilda Swinton, so that there wouldn't be any issues in China and they could release in China. Because, there was controversy that China claims sovereignty over Tibet. So that's why they didn't want to have it centered there. So, I mean, everyone is aware of these things and they try to make films adapt or easily adaptable so that they can be released in China because it is a really, really big market.
Yeah, it's huge. So, and the fact that they're not able to, they should be. I would think they'd be looking into this stuff more because it's a big chunk of the market. You know, they're losing out in that revenue, which I'm surprised that Marvel's
absolutely
let this happen for so long. And as you're saying, yeah, it's not like it's a ban, but it's like it's per movie. But there have been multiple movies now for years that haven't been able to be released. Yeah, in a row. It's like bam, bam, bam. Especially with COVID, that's helped. You know, you think it would help Marvel come back and make more money, and they're not getting that revenue. So some of these movies that would probably be higher up in the highest grossing movies of all time aren't going to be there. Like Spider-Man No Way Home just got overcome by Avatar just over this, like, I think it was yesterday. So since that happened, I mean, think of if they would have been able to be in China, probably wouldn't have passed it yet. So
yeah, I mean,
issues
Endgame
like that come with that.
629 million in China alone.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. I mean, if they didn't have that, they would not be up there for the highest grossing movies of all times. It just wouldn't be. And that's, again, maybe it's just James Cameron able to like figure it out and play with that system so he's fine, so this doesn't happen to him. Jake, you hear about this. Are you surprised about this? Or did you know this was happening? And if you were a studio, what would you do to stop this from happening to you so you make your money?
Well, I mean, you kind of have to play by the rules, I suppose. If, you know, but it depends on the rules. So are we talking about Beijing specifically, or does it include Hong Kong? Is it all of China? Like which?
Yeah, it's all of China.
Parts? It's all of China. So
yeah,
I mean, without getting too political, I suppose you just have to know who to talk to, I guess. You know, they have their reasons for censoring certain things, and whether we agree with them or we don't, that's part of the process, I suppose, when you're trying to sell a product to them. So if James Cameron has an in, good for him. You know,
I feel like he does.
He figured it out, right? Yeah. So,
I mean, they're fictional blue people. Like, you're not, what could be controversial? Like, there's nothing real about it. You know what I mean? They're like fake people from a fake planet. And like, I mean,
well, there could be no, like, thing about them fighting against
no racism
uprising
or like, well, I mean, but there's just a lot of cultural things that are not going to be in Avatar movie. You know what I mean? As opposed to movies that are taking place in the modern day world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's true. So maybe they're able to kind of, because it's such a fantasy world, they're able to get past that. But like the Statue of Liberty, like you're saying for Spider-Man No Way Home, like there's no way if you set something there, you'd think that they would have thought about that though when they're actually writing it. We can't have a fight at the Statue of Liberty. You know, you think that would.
I mean, maybe they didn't know that that's controversial until it happened. You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Yeah, that's too far gone.
Yeah, exactly. Like you know.
And you can't change that.
The Tibetan thing would be an issue, so they specifically planned for it. But maybe they didn't know the Statue of Liberty would be an issue. I don't know why it would be. Honestly,
it doesn't make any sense. I mean, and even like Top Gun Maverick, of course, like there's one, I remember like working on there, they were talking about the patches too, about being an issue. I remember they had Tom Cruise's jacket during reshoots. So they actually changed some patches before it actually came out. And then they still had to blur out the patch afterwards.
Did they really?
Yeah, they really did. I remember they had a whole thing where they had him like where he takes his jacket out of like his closet or whatever. They actually just had the closet on stage, and they like half built his bedroom or his little hangar bedroom, and just to get like that shot, which I think is hilarious. And then they still had to blur it. So what do you do?
Why was it on his jacket in the first place?
Apparently, there was a big debate about that. They were saying that it was there originally, and they're like, well, no, it wasn't. There was something similar, and they went back and forth about it. So the idea was that it was original, but I feel like they didn't really know. It didn't really seem like they were 100% certain on that, because things were changing a lot on there that weren't original. So
gotcha.
I don't know. It's just one of those things. Maybe they were trying to do it for advancing the storyline for his actual character, that maybe he's done more, and so they're adding patches, which makes sense. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to open up in China, honestly. And look at Top Gun Maverick, how much money that made too. It makes me wonder, like Spider-Man No Way Home was such a great movie. Like I'm surprised it didn't get to open in China, and also like how much money would have made if it would actually open in China on top of there. You look like Sabrina was saying, look at Avengers. Look how much, like 600 million. You said that's a lot of money.
629 million. Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
From China.
A lot of. Yeah, just from
China. China alone, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the other Marvel movies kind of average 100 million. But that, I mean, Endgame was insane. And the Ant-Man movies are actually extremely popular there as well. And there was like some like some people think that it got greenlit to do the second one, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, because of how well it did in China. Like that kind of pushed it over with making their money back or making profit, that they made so much with that extra 121 million or 126 million or something from China. So that like fueled them to do another one. They actually have like an Ant-Man ride in their Disneyland in Hong Kong.
Oh, really?
People apparently really love Ant-Man in China.
That's awesome.
Like Ant-Man.
Yeah.
They're super into Paul Rudd.
It goes from a giant dinosaur to an ant. It's like one extreme or
like,
the other.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Like we're all about this.
I wish I could remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of the ride, but it definitely exists.
Oh, great.
Brian, you'd be a hit in China apparently because you look just like Paul Rudd.
I might be. They call me Not Paul Rudd here, so Not Paul Rudd here hosting the Cruise Control show. We'll talk about we talk about Ant-Man sometime. We'll talk about Ant-Man a little bit later on. There's some stuff I want to talk about that, but we have other things to talk about, so we're gonna move on. What do you think about China actually letting Ant-Man play there? And do you think it's going to lead the way for more Marvel movies in the future? I think it will. I think they're maybe going to be back on track. You got 2 movies, you know, get Wakanda Forever. Now you got Ant-Man going out there. Hopefully everything else moves forward and Marvel can make that money. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.